As people are getting seated, please join me in thanking the four speakers. I think they all did a great job, and I think it was. So it's definitely an information-packed panel, but I think it was probably worth the extra few minutes to hear what everybody had to say. It was really great. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to have the four panelists introduce themselves and just talk about, obviously their role in the project that they had their speaker do. So I'll start with you, Paul.
Sure. So hi everyone. Paul Vendetti. I'm an industry consultant within SAS's IoT division, and I support customers in the manufacturing industry and other industries. But I also work closely with partners. So many of you in the audience and at the conference, some of you are partners, and some hopefully will be partners in the future. But what we did is we worked with, again, SESME, where a lot of the themes I'm not going to repeat, the connectivity, the interoperability, getting on that common data plane is so critical to take advantage of AI and ML, and that's one of our competencies. We're really strong in that AI ML space. So again, one other collaboration that's really important here is what SESME brings to the table. That's the Smart Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute. They're working with industry to bring that standard definition around process lines and asset equipment that would solve some of the issues around the equipment that you have that are different. But if you come up with the common definitions of those equipment and their purpose, the context, not just your organization's view of how to set it up, but an industry context, that normalized is nirvana for us. That's what we have a demonstration on. That's what we've worked on with SESME, is the ability to get that interoperating with our platform so that we can rapidly show people how to start building some of those explanations and AI capabilities.
Okay. Dan.
Hey guys, I'm Dan White with Opto22. Toby mentioned that they use our gear. We just make the stuff. Toby's the one that really makes the magic happen. But my role at Opto is to do just this: is to show the ways different people are using it, to spread the word, get that out in the form of customer use case studies. Coming to events like this and representing our products and our brand. And I think Toby did a really good job of doing that as well. And I think he mentioned a lot of the things that we stand for as a company: openness, platforms that are not closed and proprietary, and designing around the technology that is openly available and easy to get a hold of and easy to work with, and without compromising on reliability and also, of course, security.
Okay. Kevin.
Yeah, my name's Kevin McCluskey. I am Chief Technical Architect at Inductive Automation, and it's been a fun journey over the last 13 years that we've been coming here to see our name show up in more and more of these presentations. So most of you probably already know what Ignition is, the platform that we have. If you've never explored it, you can download it. It's free to try, and we're happy to talk to everybody. But in terms of these presentations, obviously, we're acting as the data layer, we're acting as the historian, we're acting as the visualization layer, and enabling the ability to dig into the data in a significant way, and then also feed it up to some of these machine learning models. We do have a bit of a philosophy internally of openness, collaboration, and having folks bring best of breed software. And so whatever best of breed means for an organization in terms of AI and ML, different organizations have different definitions for that. Ignition's going to be able to be a good platform to push that data up and do some closed loop control coming back down if chosen. So that's it.
Deidre.
Thank you everyone for being here, first of all. Petteri Vaniko's name, working with a company called Cognite. So the gentleman here on my right-hand side, I think probably did a fairly good introduction to what we offer and what we do. The only thing I'd like to actually add is that although we are definitely future-proof and at the bleeding edge, it may seem daunting at first when you take a glimpse of it. It's actually not that difficult, it's not that complicated. So come to us, challenge us, talk to us. We're very friendly and accommodating, and we'd love to work with you all. Thank you.
Okay, great. Now what we want to do is see if there's any questions from the audience. And so if we see anybody raise their hand, one of my colleagues will get you a microphone. If there's no audience questions, I'll start going on to the panel myself. But
come on, there must be one question.
Well, I'll start it, Mike. One of the things that we always get questions about is people always like the Monday morning quarterback stories. I think everybody here made a great compelling case from leading edge to large company to small company to startup. And I think the contrast on the panel was excellent. So each of you may have a different answer, but the question is, if you had to, again, Monday morning quarterback, based on what you know now and based on your experiences, what would you recommend that they say, if I have to leave you with 2 or 3 key takeaways, whether it be Monday morning quarterback, don't do this, and I'm going to go right down the whole panel. So you get the hard one because you get the same question.
No, I
Everybody
mean,
else has more time to think about it.
That's an easy one. It's all about the data, right? So I preach quite often, make sure your equipment is connectable and you're collecting data and historizing it so you have context for the future. If you make no other investments, you have to start there because you can't do all the interesting stuff until you've done that and you've done it well. If you have more than one location, having standards around how you classify things so that things become interoperable within your own plant or facilities, that's really important too. So just having historians doesn't mean you're using them properly. That's kind of my advice I give to all of our plant leaders all the time. Make that investment because it takes the longest to pay off, and then you layer things on top of it.
Excellent. Okay. Ibrahim.
Yeah, from my perspective, knowing what I know now, I think I would do exactly what I've done so far. I mean,
I'm very happy to hear.
One of the things that still holds today for us, we have to focus on the people. We cannot buy siloed solutions. We need to focus on platform architectures. One of the things that we did that I didn't really talk about is the execution of this is not as hard as it seems. It's not like we're boiling ocean with data. We actually started by taking a lot of data in and just started knocking out data sources by sources. We didn't spend a lot of time thinking about use case and then working it backwards. We first got our data in place and the use cases started happening automatically on top of it. And that's why in a very short amount of time, we were able to you saw some examples of what we were able to achieve.
Okay. Thierry.
Yeah, I'll just build on that very quickly. I'll repeat myself, it's not as daunting as it may seem. It's actually quite a bit more pragmatic in reality. You don't need to boil the ocean. You don't need to aim for perfection and academics in the first place. Aim for value, have an aspiration, set the milestone, find the partners, and they'll take you there. And if not, get rid of them and find other partners.
Kevin.
And I think these are all really great points, and I think you actually took most of mine. So I'll leave you with one more. That's basically I'd say don't wait. Get started today. Go back home. Come up with a plan for Monday next week to actually start collecting some of this data. If you're not doing it right now, and if you already are, then take a look, see what value you can get from it, and figure out how you can expand from there. Machine learning models, AI, it all requires quite a bit of training data in order to be able to do a good job. And if you're starting today, you're going to be set up well for the future.
Okay. Yeah.
Very quickly, among all these other good answers, I think something that Ibrahim talked about in his presentation would be just the idea of the human-centered digital design. Focus on the people. We're all here to solve problems for people, whether that's employees, customers, vendors, end users. So if we focus on the problems that people need to be solved, the rest of the strategy kind of falls into place for me.
Okay, Alicia.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think what I've seen happen quite a bit is people want to just go put the cart before the horse and come at you with sexy AI models and things like that. But I think it's really important to get everyone together and agree on a problem statement. And then that will drive things. Obviously, historize everything because you're going to unlock other problems that you didn't even know were around. But you have to have that consensus of what you're going after, or you will spin your wheels and lose a lot of time, and you won't be always doing value add.
Dan?
Geez, what hasn't been said? I guess one of the pieces of advice that I would probably in part would be when you're designing these systems, and if, a lot of the things that I was originally thinking, start small, start now, have all been said. But I think one of the important things is when you do go to design whatever your system is, whatever your vision is, design it around, not around specific vendors or products, but design it around the base technologies that you know are going to be there, that are going to be supported for the long haul. Have that vision, even though you're starting now and you're starting small, still keep that vision in mind for 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Who are the people that you want to be partnering with? What are the technologies that you feel like we're still going to be talking about in another 10 or 15 years? Because there's a lot of things that come and go and flip and flop. And so I would say that would be my piece of advice.
Yeah, so I'm really last, okay.
Yeah.
So my advice, I guess, playing on everything I've kind of heard, being AI, ML, and that seemed like where people were talking about where to get to. I'd say that I love the predictable question. Like, what question are we starting with? I think Ibrahim started with, we want to be predictable. That's great for like AI, machine learning kind of things. But I'll add one more thing to it, explainable. And when I say explainable, it's important that we start talking about AI and ML. It's not a black box. It's based off the data that the people know what their operations are. So as Toby talked about the business, it's a small business, but they know the business. So including the people in the organization is a real important part of it. So as you get into the AI ML, don't wait. Use the data you have, start somewhere, and maybe you don't get to the most advanced optimization algorithm in the short term, but you still can get into explainable relationships of the data so that people can start making sense of it. So when models come out, it'll be consumable and usable. And if you got to get people up at 2 a.m, that's another best practice. Get functional teams talking to one another, because I think that's another area I see a lot of problems when we start talking about, the next phase is the cross-functional. It's not just the data silos and tool silos. It's the functional silos. So make sure you guard against that.
Okay. Do we have any last call for audience questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, Lucas Oliveira with Radix. I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on the AI versus human or with human? And how are you approaching both your leadership and the people in your company with your strategy basically on that area?
I mean, for us, when I just said explainable, when we work with customers, and you can come by our booth and we'll show you, the AI is making a recommendation. Even when you do get to the optimization recommendation, it's put on the workflow to the business where the operator can see it. Like, here's what the set point recommendation is, but it's still the decision of the operator. So we see the human being a critical part of the process, so they can still make a decision, based on what the AI is telling them. That's before you get into the autonomous systems, I think you're still going to get into the more decision support, and that's probably the next evolution step.
Anybody else want to comment, or we'll take the next question?
I'll just answer. So yeah, we did a little bit of advanced process control where we had models that were sending down, set points, but we had to bring the operators up along with us, and really we even showed them the code, and they had a toggle button to be able to go between they're running the system or we're using the APC stuff. So you just cannot underestimate your operators, and they're not going to use it. It's going to always be off if they're not brought up on that journey.
I'll just add one more thing. There's a beautiful thing about LLMs when we talk about AI, I see when we talk about generative AI these days. LLMs are dream machines. That's why they feel so human. Now, hallucinations is a characteristic of a dream. It's an inherent foundational capability of LLMs. We're not going to eradicate it. What you can do to make them explainable and trustworthy, however, is you anchor the LLM into a knowledge graph. So the actual artifact, the answer, the digit comes from the knowledge graph that is deterministic and verifiable. And you're merely, in quotations, using the LLM as a translation service, as a UX layer for the many of us who can't program Python or SQL or GraphQL to access the graph. That way you get best of both worlds. You have simplicity and UX like Ibrahim showed, but you can actually be very verifiable in the answers, explainable all the way to showing where exactly from which document, which page, which section that answer is being pulled from. Otherwise, you always have the hallucinations. And again, LLMs are dream machines. They're intended to hallucinate. That's why they're so great. Again, use them for what they're good for. Don't try and get them to be something they're not. They are not deterministic.
Okay, any other comments, or should we take the next set? Okay, go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. I had a question, I think, for Ibrahim. I was thinking about sort of this volume of data and scale that you guys are using and collecting, and I was sort of curious to understand how you're sort of managing those costs within your organization. Just thinking about it, because that's oftentimes let's say a reason for somebody to not want to collect all of that information. And then the second piece, or the follow-up, was based on the comment you said earlier about getting the data first and then starting to see the use cases. And I was just curious how that is also plays into narratives and information about people talking about sort of starting with the use case first and then trying to collect the data for it, and just what was successful, or how did your organization sort of tackle those challenges?
Yeah, so good question. So for the data cost, I think that's a Cognite problem, because all the data is being managed by them and in their cloud. So you need to get a good deal with them. So so the platform is SaaS, and we're pumping all the data in Cognite. It's managed by them. In terms of cost involved, you have to do your ROI, right? And one of the things in the earlier slides of my presentation, I talked about having an optimized technology stack, and you have to make choices. So we decided to go one platform, Cognite, everything. It becomes very costly when you're trying to maintain Cognite, Snowflake, and add data lakes, and then you're replicating it everywhere as a compute everywhere. So that's something that you have to think about, how you're going to create the most lean architecture that does what it needs to do for you, and get in a partnership that will help you with good deal, basically. So that's first part of the question. The second part of the question is, for us, when we look at digital transformation, speed is very important. And we cannot sit here and try to do what we did for the next 10 years or 20 years or even 5 years, right? Digital transformation will not last that longer in the organization. People don't have patience. Change management is not going to work. So how do you do it in a way that once you've established your North Star, you know you're going to go there. You know that you need to build a certain foundation to support that. You get on it, you build the foundation. The way I look at it is about building your dream home. You build your dream home, first thing is you dream it, you architect it, then what do? You dig a hole and put a concrete foundation in place. And then you still have the flexibility within that foundation to change your rooms and walls and things like that. And that's the approach we did. We went all in, put in the concrete foundation, put in the plumbing, which is our ingestion pipelines, and then we still had the flexibility to do whatever we wanted with those data in terms of use cases.
Anyone else in the panel want to comment, or are we all? Okay.
We love you, Craig.
Oh. Yeah, it's called, we want to get to the networking reception, we want to get to casino night and dinner. So, but I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you at the events this evening and tomorrow for another full day of the forum. Thank you so much. Have a great day.